Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Today we are talking about a culture topic, why company culture is more important than ever. If you follow me on Instagram, Jay Doran _ the culture man, you see videos, short videos, 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes on business, culture, life, all things culture. And today we're elaborating on one of those topics, why company culture is more important than ever. And our goal is to consistently elaborate on those topics so that way you can continue to learn with me why company culture is more important than ever. I think, unfortunately, it is. The fact that it even is to me is sad. And why it matters to you. Why is this thought even important to you? Well, what is culture? Culture is people, character is individuality, culture is group and the interaction of individuality to group. We're all a part of culture. How we behave in a group is a part of culture. How we influence others is a part of culture. The stories that influence us is a part of our culture. The language we use, the values that we either live by, or let's say that we have a company and we want to promote certain behaviors that are going to create more value than we have now. That's a part of culture. Symbolism, how we represent meaning, is a part of culture. Rituals, the rituals that we participate in or don't participate in affects our culture. If we're going to talk about business culture, it's more important than ever because number one, optionality. As individuals, we have a greater choice of who we want to work for, or at least that there's a greater perception of the options that we have in the world. So what I'm hearing now, interacting with CEOs, dozens and dozens and hundreds of leaders through the Culture Matters podcast, is that when people are having interviews, oftentimes the conversations are different than they were in the past. So, for example, because of the information age, because of the access to information, I can go into a meeting with an employer and ask about things that in the past I wouldn't have even had maybe the idea to ask, because I could look up and find just about everything about a company before I even go to it. So what is that going to do to hiring? It's going to make it harder to hire, in the sense that that conversation could easily swing to the potential employee controlling that interview versus the potential employer controlling it. Why is that important? Because it's got to be an equal level of learning about and breaking bread with one another to figure out if this really is the right company for both parties, right? For the company to get their best possible candidate, and for the best possible candidate, or for the candidate to choose the best possible company for them. As so people have more options than ever. The data is showing that people are more transactional and transient in the places that they work. And there's pros to that, and there's cons to that. Well, another one of the reasons why company culture is more important than ever, or needs to be discussed and understood, and is because the bar is being raised, the bar of leadership, the bar of how people manage and work with people that are lower in the hierarchy. Because of this optionality, there's a higher degree of stress generally in society that's being exacerbated by social platforms. There's data on that too. Just think of like work productivity. If I'm disengaged in the workplace for whatever reason, I could be on my phone for 30 minutes goes by and I wasn't creating more value for my company, and in turn myself, because the well-being of myself, the upward mobility of me moving up in the company, of having more meaning in the company, of having more compensation in the company, is going to be tied to how productive I am. People are going to know if I'm not engaged, and I might not even realize I'm not engaged. I spent 2 hours scrolling, and I was able to do that because my company wasn't engaging me, and I wasn't engaging my company. And it's like, who's on first, who's on third, whose responsibility is this? Well, clearly the responsibility falls on the most aware. Maybe that's not clear, but the responsibility falls on the most aware. You as an individual listening to this, depending what your context is, are you the founder of a business? This conversation is going to speak differently to you. Are you the employee of a business that does not, you're listening to this because you're looking for answers, you're looking for leadership, you're looking for meaning, you're looking to potentially start your own business? Are you actually engaged in your business and you're looking to figure out why others aren't? this conversation, it can go one way or another. So let's see, if I was going to go one by one, if you're a founder or like, let's say the CEO of an organization, company culture is more important than ever, because having a team that's moving in the direction that you want the organization to move in is going to increase or decrease your likelihood of success. And company culture is important in the capacity to you, because the hero component of that, like your hero's journey, the story that drives you, the vision that you have, the strategy that you've articulated, the advisors that you have, the strength of your leadership, your bench, the core people that you're moving into the marketplace with, the strength of that, how you articulate your values. They're not just nuanced and implicit in your behavior. They're explicit, they're spoken, they're defined, they're understood. The team meetings are, they're a part of them, and there are team meetings, and they have a cadence, and there's an outline, and you're able to listen and tell the truth and understand the pendulum of up and down. That whole conversation, go back to culture topic number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that we've done. Listen to future ones. We'll unpack that. Company culture is important for your leadership maturation to develop. If you're an employee that's thinking, I hate what I'm doing, where I'm at, and I want to go start something else, one of the best things you can actually do to start something else is get as serious as possible about how you're playing into your company culture, and not just be the effect of that cause, but be the cause and that effect. I use an example of Don Hennig on the Culture Runners podcast. He talked about when he was employed at a high level of executive stature, having been a founder of this giant company, and going home and telling me about how he was telling his wife, the culture here, just, it's not buzzing. It's not like, it just, I don't know if this is going to work. And she said, well, you be the culture. Basically, you smile, you greet people. If people aren't smiling and greeting people and there's not that energy, you go be that. And he took action on that advice, and it changed the whole freaking company. He's like, now, of course, part of that was he was in a position of authority, influence, and power, that how he behaved could influence the culture. Maybe you're not. Maybe it's too closed of a society. You're going to get kicked right out of it, right? Think about the person that tells the truth in a tyrannical society. They're put in prison. It's like the Nelson Mandela effect of company culture. The more you tell the truth, the longer your prison sentence. Well, this is what I tell you. Good, in the sense that maybe if you're fired or forced to get out of there, you're a better person for having spoken up. You're a better person for having taken responsibility. Don't check out and quiet quit. Don't just like throw in the towel and build a side hustle. If you're going to do that like after work. Like, be as responsible as you freaking can while you're in that culture, so that you're the best version of yourself, and you're not going to let that environment make you out as a victim. That would be an advice for somebody that feels disenfranchised. What about somebody that's an employee of an organization, executive organization? It's like, how do I get these people bought in? Follow Don. Don wasn't the founder, but he freaking led that organization. He showed up, smiled, said hello to people, made things happen, gave it all, put it all on the table. You're going to have a greater influence than you think, and it may change your life. I wrote down some of the things why company culture is more important than ever. It's optionality. People have more options than ever, so the bar is raised higher. The perceptions are different, so the bar is raised higher. Social platforms, we're fighting for attention. These are addictive things. It's, we're all, at some level, we are all addicted. I don't even think is the right word. We're integrating with technology at such a level that it's either helping us create, and just like I'm filming this and creating the company, like at a broader brand and marketing, and have the ability to convert and sell and grow our consulting firm into more and more states through this. I'm creating through this platform. If I was just scrolling in this time instead of creating this episode with you, then I'm actually taking away. Now, of course, there's a time for being on the phone, depending on what we're doing on it. Maybe we're learning and so on and so forth. Maybe we're engaging with our interpersonal relationships and our employees and our customers and so on and so forth. But we're constantly being influenced by our relationship with technology that's increasing production or decreasing production during working hours. The company culture is going to dictate productivity. The company culture is going to dictate that influence, that upward mobility through its through the behaviors, through the stories, through the engagement, through the leadership, through the how it represents meaning to its people and gets people moving in the right direction. What's the right direction? The direction that benefits their lives as a consequence of the company being more successful, as a consequence of successfully serving its customers at the highest level possible, so that shareholders and everyone is moving forward in the progression of their lives, right? Health, wealth, et cetera, et cetera. Engagement of ownership based on number one and number two. So the optionality for those in the highest positions of power, I think, they're just as susceptible to being disengaged. And in fact, I think um, the narrative is so top heavy on employees and so uninspired as it relates to customer service in our culture today, in a business context. I think ownership disengagement is a leading cause of employee disengagement on a level that we've never before seen. And all the narratives are changing. The pride of ownership is becoming the pride of passivity, in the sense that the narrative in business culture today is like, you should, the implicit narrative even, but also explicit, like, you should be ashamed of yourself if you're working in your business. You should be working on it. It's like, it's not an either or. It's a both and the order matters, and the context is dependent on what is going on at that given time. But I tell you, you want to destroy a culture which impacts all facets of the business, be it disengaged and inaccessible and overly, uh, FOMO, grass is greener, founder CEO. The social platform integration that's happening, the quote unquote addiction, which the reason I'm not arguing it's an addiction, I'm saying it's even deeper than that. It's an integration, and the optionality is affecting ownership just as much as anyone else, which then has a downward negative effect on employee engagement. And then, of course, customer experience and everything, innovation and everything that follows. So you can see why company culture is more important than ever, generally more important than ever. Company culture has always been important. We're talking about it because it's another thing. Macro culture is changing. The fabric of our society, the plates are shifting. We're seeing the proof of this in the manifestation of our political sector, our political medium being unable to communicate hard stop. That's a consequence of the values shifting in our macro culture that actually has a downward effect on our business culture that creates more anxiety, more uncertainty, a higher propensity or a higher necessity of leadership, people to get people together talking. And man, that raises the bar. That makes it even harder to lead. And so having who advises us, the philosophies by which we use to build our influence and attract and retain talent is always difficult, or who that influences that. And the bar is raising by the minute. The bar is raising by the minute because people are looking for leaders. We need leaders. Even leaders need leaders. We all need leaders, and it's an infinite ladder of leaders. So macro conflicts are making culture important as a conversation, as an understanding piece. The bar is just so high. So the bar is raising for founders, CEOs, et cetera, due to the proliferation. How about this? Of private equity and investments. And as the world is getting more flat through technological advancement, there's more and more, options for people to just cash out and check out. And when you cash out, if you're not all the way out, you can't check out. There's consequences. You sell your company for $1 billion valuation, but it's only comparatively, you get 20% up front, 40% up front. You didn't sell it for $1 billion and you sold it for 200 million or 400 million until you get the rest. You cash out and you check out, and that negatively affects the culture because it wasn't the right buyer. You weren't the right seller. There wasn't an integration at that level needed. Not only do you lose a part of your identity, you're not selling for what you think you sold for. That could destroy your whole life, family, and all the people that work for and with you or have for decades. The proliferation of that investment, the investment world, is affecting company cultures, period, hard stop. You go down any shore, and you're going to see all these giant houses bigger than you ever seen before. I say that's PE money. Yeah, when Main Street meets Wall Street, these little Main Street businesses that all of a sudden they're getting millions and millions of dollars, that creates such a degree of entitlement and lack of awareness and obfuscation of responsibility. That is destroying culture in businesses nationwide at scale. And it's an art and a science for an investment firm to get involved in a company and not lose the culture, but add to it and make it even more exciting and meaningful and successful for not only shareholders, but all parties. That is affecting our society deep, 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 deep. So why culture matters more important. This is a big conversation. Follow me on Jay Doran _ the culture man on Instagram, Jay Doran _ the culture man on Instagram. If you're seeing this on YouTube, yeah, I just worked out. I wear a shirt, the hug dealer. We're giving hugs today. And follow along. We're consistently putting out these culture topics. I'm elaborating on content. I really dislike that word, content. We're elaborating on thoughts that I am having as a result of the great thinkers that I've had the opportunity to study and work with, and hardworking and gifted business individuals I've had the opportunity to serve in our organization, to work with them. I'm sharing these thoughts on culture topics. Please listen to the Culture Matters podcast. Continue to listen, and leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast. I'll see you on the next episode of the Culture Matters podcast.